everyone. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. This show is created to discuss life topics to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. Today, I have someone here who I am so happy that she is here and that we've connected. Her name is Monique De Leon. And she felt the call of God in her life to do worship at the age of 12. So Monique is a teacher and an author of Pursuing Purity Under Pressure. We're going to get into that. So she speaks to in women's conferences, at youth groups, in college groups, campuses, in seminars, workshops, Bible clubs, all over. So I am so happy to have her here because these are the kind of conversations I don't hear a lot of, but want to hear a lot of. So Monique, thank you so much for being here on Straight Talk. This is really great. I'm glad we connected. And so the way I like to start the show for my audience, because people are listening and they love to hear great content, and I know this is going to be one of those. So please let us know a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so I am Monique De Leon, as Neena said, born and raised in Southern California. I'm the youngest of 5, so grew up in a big family, and not everything was always easy, but I think my faith is what I was able to cling to. Like, my dad was an alcoholic. My parents divorced when I was 7. My mom raised the 5 of us by herself. But faith is something that she always instilled to me at a young age. And so now currently I discovered it's about singing. I like to sing. So I travel internationally as well as nationally, leading praise and worship at different events. I wrote a book. I'm working on my second one as well. I'm an online course creator, created some online content for people to help them grow in a relationship with God, just to gain more knowledge about him. And I travel speaking as well. So that's what I do.
Wow, you do a lot more than I thought you did. Okay, let's get into this. So was that tough? I mean, I was kind of raised in a Catholic home.
Okay.
I now I'm a Christian, but I it's kind of weird to say because Catholics consider themselves Christian, but I was born and raised Catholic, and I didn't feel a real connection to God. I knew there was one. I just didn't feel a real connection to him because I always felt like I was going to be punished or whatever, because that's how the Catholic religion taught me anyway, right? The nuns were constantly hitting me with the ruler, you know? So, and I struggled, you know, growing up because I had a lot of bad things happen to me. And it was very difficult to have that connection to God, you know, because I felt like he abandoned me or he didn't love me. Or then went through a little bit of a stage in my life where, is there even a God? You know, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So being so young and seeing that, right? Dad's an alcoholic and now mommy's doing this on her own, because it's hard. Being a single mom is hard. I did it, but I did it with 2. I cannot even imagine the strength of your mom doing it with 5. That's hard work, right? How did you maintain that faith, right? Because you were little, so you probably, I don't know if you felt a presence of God when you were little, but I'm just wondering if you went through a challenge with that, right? Like, say right now, my audience who's listening has some younger children in their home, or maybe somebody who's young is listening, right? You know, what do you say to those challenging moments? How did you get through that?
Yeah. So I think ever since I was little, something that my mom always did was she taught me about faith from a young age. So while I was going to church, things about God were always reinforced at home, which I feel like a lot of times they're not. So I was able to learn and discover about God for myself. So it wasn't just my mom's faith, but I developed my own. And at a little age, my mom used to memorize scriptures with me, and she would teach me the Bible and stuff. And so it really built a faith in me, how that God can do anything. And I remember when I was 4 years old, I talk about this in the book, how we had a cat and the cat got hit by a car, and the neighbor saw, and the neighbor brought our cat over because the cat was dying. Like, it was bleeding from its mouth, from its anus. It was vomiting everywhere. Like, it was really, serious. And the neighbor was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I saw it and I just want to bring you your cat. And my mom, she just looked at me and she said, Monique, we don't have money to take the cat to a vet, so I need you to pray for the cat. And I prayed for the cat, and I just asked God to heal this cat. And immediately the cat jumped up and was completely fine. Nothing wrong. And it was like a miraculous thing. And things like that, when I was little, I would experience and know that God is real. And it's because my mom really instilled things of God into me. And that's what's helped me through these years. Now, there was a period probably in my 20s where I didn't like you said, you always knew God was there and stuff. And I had this amazing relationship with God, but there was a period, and I really don't know what I was going through at the time, but I didn't pray. I didn't read my Bible. Like I just stopped, and I just
Yeah.
stopped everything. And one day I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and pray and talk to God. And when I did, it was just like this overwhelming feeling of love. And
Mhm.
I just heard on the inside, like, God speak to my heart. Cause I was like, God, I have actually totally missed this. Like, you're actually amazing and you're really real. And I was like, God, I've totally missed you. And then I just, on the inside, just heard God say back to me, but oh, how I've missed you.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's one of those things where I feel like that really is what it is. And people don't realize how God really is there, and he misses us when we don't come and spend time with him and try to learn and develop a relationship, because he's always ready and wanting us to. But yes, things in life happen and people get derailed sometimes. But I just think people need to remember that, God does see, and he cries right along with you those tears, and he sees what's happened and it's broken his heart, and he just wants you to run to him so he can restore and to heal and put you back on the right track.
That's
So
so good. You said something you really powerful there too, right? Because you said that, your mom, you didn't only have God or the view of God at church, but you also had it at home. And you're right, it's not always that way. And that's what causes a lot of us to derail.
yeah.
Because when you go to church, right, it's like your parents or your guardian or leader, whatever, have like a dual life,
Mhm.
right? Like in church, they are like the person to go to. They're amazing, they're fun, they're whatever, whatever. And then they get home and they become these like, mean people, right? Like they start
Yeah.
yelling at you and screaming at you and, doing things. And you're just like, wait, so what are we doing here? Right.
Yeah.
And I think in humanity, right? In humanity, we're like that, right? We know how to turn
Yeah.
something on when we're going to the boardroom and how to turn it off when we're coming home, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we do that a lot with our faith, and we have to be careful with that. You're
Yeah.
so on point with that, because and kudos to your mom too, right? Because
Mhm.
that's a very hard thing to do, to go to church and be the same as you are going to be at home,
Yeah.
when she can be at home bitter because she's safe there, right? she
Mhm.
she can be
Yeah.
herself there if she wanted to be in that place of bitterness and anger and remorseful, and right. So
Mhm.
that speaks volumes, right, as to why you are where you are today. It's that scripture that says, raise them up in the way that they should go, and they shall not
Mhm.
depart from it, right? You're like a
Yeah.
prime example of that.
Yeah.
Because I think that if we live our lives, really being aware that we should not be hypocrites,
Mhm.
that's going to help us a lot in our journey,
Yeah.
right? What do
It
you
is.
do? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was just gonna say, it really is so important that parents, just put things in, like spend time with your children reading the Bible, or spend time
Mhm.
with your kids praying. Like, let them see you, because my earliest memories are my mom on her knees praying and crying, and I'm sitting on the bed with like playing with a Barbie doll, and you know what I mean? But it's just something that I always remember. Like, these are my earliest
Right.
memories of watching her serve God and just seeing the example that she was. So thus the impact was very strong for me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you find that your siblings experienced that as well? I mean, you're the youngest, so you
Yeah.
probably were around mom a little bit more, maybe? Did
Yeah.
you find that they saw that as well, the strength in her when it came to faith?
Yes and no. Yes,
Mm.
always, but I think it wasn't until I was like at that age when she kind of rededicated her life back to God, type of a
Mhm.
thing. So
Mhm.
she didn't have the opportunity to do with them what she did with me.
Got
And
it.
so as far as like, because I was the youngest, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of quite spread apart from my siblings. So when they were all at school, I was home with her,
Mhm.
type of a
Mhm.
thing. So she had the opportunity to be able to do that. And I know that's something that she missed, and she was bummed that she, just in that time in life, wasn't able to do that with them. But they still very much like know, and they come to her if they need prayer for anything. And, because they know my mama has faith, and when she
Right.
prays, like God hears, and,
Right.
so, so her and I, we just pray for them. But they know it's there, but it's just still something I think they didn't have that. They've all had their own encounter with God, definitely in
Mhm.
their teenage years. But, when you've got friends and other things pulling at you, sometimes those things are able to pull you away from God if you're not solid within your own self in a relationship with Him, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it
So
does. It does.
yeah.
Now, what happened when you were around 20? How did you, what was it that pulled you away a little bit from that relationship, that
Um,
close relationship, I should say?
yeah, I don't remember what I was going through at the time, but I just decided like I just wasn't gonna pray and or read, or I was still going to church and stuff, and I was even still singing at church and everything. But I just for this season, whatever reason, I just stopped and doing
Right.
the things that I normally was doing. And it's just an example that I could see how, yes, it could happen to anyone, and it does happen to people where they just easily can get pulled away. And of course, things always happen little by little,
Mm-hmm,
and it's
mm-hmm.
not just really an all of a sudden, but there's things that happen little by little. And it just was a period of time where I just didn't do anything, didn't read, didn't pray or nothing. And then, and that's just where we see the goodness and the mercy and the faithfulness of God, where
Yeah, isn't
he's
that right?
always ready to receive, and he's always ready when you come to him to bring you back. So that's something I learned.
That's so right. That's so right. And even if you're, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, even if you guys are listening right now and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but it's been a long time. It doesn't matter. I
Mhm.
mean, a thousand years here is a day in heaven. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So I tell
Mhm.
people that all the time. Because I never, I have no qualms about saying that I'm a believer and that I believe in Jesus Christ. I have no problems with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, some
Yeah,
people will hide it. They'll say, "Oh, yeah, no, 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 I am
yeah,
100%."
yeah,
Like saying, "He is working on me, though, Monique. I got a
yeah.
lot of issues." He is working on me. But so tell me about the fact that you're, kind of teaching now. And I know you said you were worshiping as well,
Mhm,
and you do a lot of women's conferences and stuff. So we'll start with like one thing. So you do women's conferences, but you also do youth groups in college
mhm.
and all of that. So let's start with the youth. What exactly is it that you like to teach the youth or pour into them, when it comes to anything that you're teaching? I'm not sure exactly
Yeah.
what topic,
Just
but
just teaching them and about God and their
Mhm.
relationship with him, and giving them that understanding and helping them to develop that at a young
Mhm.
age, which would
Okay.
save them in later years. Because, I was a youth leader myself at my church for 4 years. So being able to pour into these young people and explain certain things in the Bible and help answer questions that they may have, because they are constantly in environments that are contrary
Yeah,
to what God
for
is
sure.
saying. And they're constantly being taught by people that don't love God, that don't know God, that don't even care about God. So trying to reinforce certain things of scriptural truths in their lives, being able to apply to it. And I know this personally because I went to a public high school. I went to public school
Mhm.
my whole life. And so I was met with certain things. And so wanting to be able to give them tools of how to combat when someone says something about you, or, an atheist, of how God's not real, and how to respond, and just to teach them, and how, you know what I mean? Like when you have these encounters with people, it's okay, but you got to know, like what I believe it's First Peter chapter 3 talks about, how you always want to be ready to give a response for the truth that you believe, but to know, about God, to be able to give a response when someone asks you and questions you about your faith, that you're ready to be able to
Right.
say, no, this is why I believe this, and I don't agree with that, and this is why. And to be able, so I wanted to help equip young people to be able to do that, so to be able to speak into their life and give them an understanding of what we believe and why we believe it,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
it can make sense for them. Because unless something makes sense to you, you're not going to really be able to hold on to it. So if you don't have an
Right.
understanding, you're not going to be able to know what to say when someone comes against you saying something completely opposite. So that's why I like to
Yeah.
really speak important to the lives of young people.
And that's so important, right? Because it's their foundation. It's what they
Yeah,
stand on, especially as they start to grow, like you said, even in school, college is really tough.
actually, yeah.
Yeah, college is super, super tough. And all of the pressures come in, right? Because everything
Hmm.
now, unfortunately, is sexualized and,
Hmm.
and made to look so amazing and wonderful. And you're free to do and be whomever you want. So that can be a bit of a challenge, right? Because you want to learn to love people where they are, but you also want to give them a foundation that is truth. And
Yeah.
that's a hard balance, right? It's a hard balance
Hmm.
because pretty much the world is against your message,
Yeah,
like, and I mean, that's always clear as a Christian, right? That God said
yeah,
that the world will be always against, they were against him first, right?
yeah,
So sometimes when you go through that, it's a little bit of an ouch situation, but especially
yeah,
if you're young. So that's
yeah.
great that you're giving them weapons and tools to
Hmm.
use, right? Because
Yeah,
that we miss that sometimes. We miss that. And even as adults, sometimes we don't know how to defend our faith.
yeah, we need it
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so I've gotten then maybe in the last like year and a half to 2 years, I've gotten a lot into apologetics and just
Okay.
kind of learning the true foundation of what my faith is
Yeah,
and why. Why do I
yeah,
believe that? And what's the evidence of that?
yeah.
And it's been fascinating to
It is.
learn that it's not an emotional response. It is
No.
literally a logical response when you start to like really go dive in and discover why is it that I believe? Is it because my mom told me to? Actually, no. Like you, I found my faith myself as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you do
yeah.
that through discovery, a discovery of the word, discovery of the truth, right? So
Mhm.
how do
Yeah,
you then transition what you're teaching these kids into these women groups, right? Because now their level of learning is a little bit more broad, right? And they
yeah,
also probably have a lot more really hard-hitting life challenges. Not that the youth doesn't, but it's different, right? So
yeah.
how do you transition the teaching that you're doing to the
Yeah.
women?
So even when it comes to ladies, because we as women, and God has designed us this way, we're more the nurturers, we're a bit more emotional, a bit more sensitive, and emotional is not necessarily a bad word either.
Right, of
But
course.
just really there's just something that God loves women, and there is just something, such a resolve that God has put within women. And I did a podcast about this for Mother's Day, and just saying how a lot of us are the results of a praying mama or a praying grandma. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's one of
That's
those
true.
things. And, and because women are like going on mission trips the most, the women are the ones that show up at prayer meetings the most, more than men. Like, there's just something within
Yeah.
women that is such a sensitivity to the heart of God. And so wanting to see women flourish and to be able to be bold and strong and stand and to pour into this next generation of women is so needed and vital.
Mhm,
It's like the
mhm.
Bible talks about in Titus how the older women are to teach the younger women how to be moms, how to be wives. And so just wanting to, even though I'm not a wife or a mother, but I've been raised by a really strong one whom, even though she was divorced, but just the things that she's poured into me that I see as a result my life because of what she did and what she taught me. And so that's why I just always want to encourage women about pouring into the children, pouring into the next generation of women that are coming up below you. Because,
Mm,
as adults, these ladies that have gone through things, they got a lot that they could teach this younger generation. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so
yep.
there's so much wisdom. And I feel like a lot of times the older generation doesn't take the time to pour into the younger generation when there's so much that can be learned from them. So there's so
Yeah.
much value in what they've even gone through and experienced that they can pass on. And so that's why just my encouragement admonition is to them to do so and just continue to stand bold and strong, because you're needed. Like, women, you are needed in this life to be able to speak into the next generation.
Do you ever like have to address the topics of because you just mentioned that you were not married and you're not a mother, right? You just said that?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
just to make sure. Um so how do you encourage women who are single, right? And would
Mhm.
like to get married, but aren't or don't have a partner. I've spoken to a lot of like single women who tell me I'm married 20 years, but they tell me it's a really big struggle for them,
Yeah.
to be single, or to not just, you know, um, be in a place where they are desperate enough to just go with whatever guy comes around as opposed to waiting for the one that they feel is the right one for them, right?
Yeah.
Do you speak to that? Do you ever, address
Yeah.
that kind of issue? Yeah.
Yes, I talk about that in the book, especially
Okay.
because as a single woman myself, never been married, have no kids, um, there you have to learn to be content in your singleness. And I think a lot of times we haven't. That people get married for all kinds of reasons. Okay, people get married because they're lonely, because it's convenient,
Mm-hmm.
because they're pushing 30, or like, do you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like,
Yep.
and these are reasons, like, you should not marry for those reasons. And so because of this, I think that's why we see so much divorce, because, people just want to be married for the sake of being married.
Yeah.
And instead of really learning about your own self, because I am a firm believer that you have to know your own heart and know your own self and learn to love yourself before you fully can devote yourself to someone else.
Right.
And so a lot of times people are not healed before they enter into marriages, thinking that will heal it when that won't, when that'll
Right.
actually lead
Right.
to its demise. So just encouraging, as a single woman in her late 30s, understanding this and the pressure, and people making fun, or like just all the experiences that come along with it, being in your late 30s and still single. um just wait. Like, it is better just to learn to be good with yourself and to be
That's so
content.
good.
Because if I really wanted to be married by now, Neena, I could have been done married by now. Like, if the
Right.
opportunities and that have come my way, like if I really just wanted
I
to be
know
married
you're
today,
gorgeous, so I'm
it could
not.
have
I would
happened.
not be
Thank you.
surprised.
Thank you. But
That
I'm like,
speaks
I could have
volumes.
spent, but no,
Yeah.
I'm waiting. I don't want to settle. I've
Yeah.
seen girlfriends who have settled and they have mediocre marriages.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like, I don't want that. And I refuse to settle. And it's not that I have these unrealistic expectations, but no, I just refuse to settle. So that is
Right.
my encouragement to singles,
That's
for sure.
amazing. That's amazing. I have a friend of mine who um believed that way as well, and she was basically in her mid 40s before she met her husband, and they had a phenomenal marriage. He passed
Mm,
away of cancer, but and only 9 years into their marriage. But she waited. No
yeah,
kids. She waited. She wanted
yeah,
the guy, and she got
yeah,
the guy. He was
yeah.
amazing. But it was tough. And I remember going through those kind of conversations, with her, where she was like,
Mhm,
this is really not that easy. She's a believer
mhm,
as well. She's like, this is kind of tough. And one thing that she mentioned that I also wanted to talk to you about is how, to be, because you just said, no, you have to love yourself first. And then that made me think of some of the women that I've spoken to who have gotten into those bad marriages or bad relationships. And even though the red flags were there, like tons and tons of red flags, they
mhm.
were like, that's okay, right?
Uh-uh.
We'll fix them, right? When we get them, we'll fix them, because we
Uh-huh.
always think we can fix everything.
Yeah.
So do you ever find yourself looking over any flags, or the opposite of that, making a flag where there isn't one? You know
That's
what I'm
good.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes fear can set in too, right? Like, you don't want
Yeah.
to make the wrong decision either. You're like, wait a minute, the guy I'm going to marry has to be the guy for me, and that, somebody who's going to be with me for the next 50 years, right?
Mhm.
So, do you ever like try to check yourself too to make sure you're not doing one or the other?
Yeah. So I have even just being in relationships
Yeah.
where there were red flags and roadblocks that I was just jumping over and ignoring, and
Duck in, right? You duck and get through 'em. I know that's right.
and there have even been some clear times that praying about it, like God had
Mhm.
told me no, but I still went ahead anyways. And because
Not
of
God,
that,
right? That's not God. That's not God.
and so because of it, endured some real heartache, and
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
Yeah.
just, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter. And I know I've been there where he's so cute and he's funny and he's successful and he even loves God, but it's just still not the one for you. Like, it's
Yeah.
one of those things, and too many times I think women do get trapped in like, but he's all these amazing things. But it doesn't matter, because on the inside you really know and have a knowing, like there's just something that's just not, but we
Right.
try to ignore that. And I
Right.
did that, and I was almost engaged because I stopped this guy from actually proposing, because I knew he was getting ready to propose. And I just, first time I met him, I thought like, oh, he's cute, but nah. And then the
Right.
second time I met him, we had another conversation. I was like, oh, well, maybe. And then, you start rationalizing. When you
Yeah.
start
Yeah. Yeah.
rationalizing, instead of listening to that instant instinct that,
Right.
God put
Right.
there. And that's what happens. People
Right.
rationalize. And then, years go by, and, you really realize, no, this really wasn't the relationship I was supposed to be in. So
Right.
yes, I
And
have.
that's hard, right? That's hard too. Because if you're
Mhm.
invested in that relationship and then you realize it's not the right one, that's a hard decision to make, right? It's really about loving yourself enough to know that you have to make the right decision even when it's uncomfortable,
Yeah,
right? Because
it is.
if he was about to get, propose, that means you guys were pretty serious,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah,
that's a hard decision for you to sit there and have to make, saying, okay, wait, I have to do this for me. I'm
yeah,
valuable and I don't want to be in something that I'm not going to be valued, or it's not going to be a good marriage, right?
yeah. Because I just, I had no peace on the inside, and I was just
Right.
so bothered by it. And it's just because it's like God can see up ahead where we can't, and a
Right.
lot of times He's trying to help us avoid pain and avoid wasting time and
Hmm.
heartache and even money. And you know what I mean, for real,
Right.
like. And I'm glad I didn't get to that point, because I have had two girlfriends who broke off engagements like weeks before the wedding.
Mm,
And they're so glad they did, that they didn't go through with it. But of course, it was like just so much drama, and just, breaking off a
a lot of
wedding 2 months
pain, a lot of
prior,
pain.
and
Yeah.
just, yeah, and even heartache for the guy. Like, it's just one of those things. I'm glad I didn't allow things to go that
Yeah.
far. I know people who have, but it's tough, because you don't ever want to hurt someone, on purpose, but it's just a decision that you still have to make.
Do you have someone that coaches you or mentors you or guides you as well? And here's why I'm asking, because you have to also be careful that you don't develop some sort of fears yourself, right? Where now you question everything, right?
Yeah.
Because you've never been married, right? You've never
Yeah.
been married. And so um I know that marriage is tough. Marriage is
Mhm.
hard. I've been married 20 years now, so it's hard. It's my
Yay!
second marriage, amazing
Oh,
marriage, hard ass marriage. it's it's had its hard ass times, I'm sorry to say. Um, but but we are in a phenomenally amazing place, and it's because we're
good,
believers and we both came to God pretty much around the same time, and we've learned to love, honor, and respect each other. But it was
good.
hard, Monique. And
Mm,
sometimes when those times come at you and they get hard, you even question it then. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like, what
gotcha.
am I doing here? Why am I married? Why is this happening? What is happening right now? But, like, then you realize, you know what? Nothing's going to be easy and nothing
Yeah,
is going to be smooth, and you're going to have your bad times. You're just gonna. It just
yeah.
is, right? So
Mhm.
are you feeling like, are you waiting for like a confirmation and a feeling that this is the right thing, or are there certain criterias that you're looking for in that partner that you feel God is creating for you?
I guess you could say both. Like, there are
Okay.
certain things in particular that I feel are like non-negotiables, or certain things that I'm looking for, that I know with what the things that God's put within me, a man
Mm-hmm.
who'll be able to come along and complement that. As
Mm-hmm.
far as like, my gifts and callings and what I'm called to do. But definitely seeking God. And that's why I'm not married, because, I've been in relationships and prayed about it the whole time, and asking God. And, I believe that God is actually quick to let us know if we're listening. A lot of
Yeah.
times we want to ignore, him sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the reason why, because I feel like what I've learned and come to understand is that my marriage is not for me, that my marriage really is for him, and the future generations are going to be birthed through me.
Yes, so
And
good.
so that's why it's going to be something that I'm going to need clarity from him, to let me know yes or no on this, individual.
Right.
And also not going into marriage with an expectation of perfection. And I think a lot of times us
Yeah.
ladies, we tend to fantasize and think that
Yeah,
everything
that's why
can
I
be.
was asking. That's where I was going. Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
so I've learned that, not to expect perfection.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got two different people with different personalities coming together and being under the same roof. Like, there is probably going to be some friction sometimes, but learning to, um, I've heard it, but something about like, managing disagreements, arguments, learning to do it well. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay, but learning
Yeah.
to do it well. And that's where the lines of communication always need to be intact with
Yeah.
one another. And so that's something that I have an anticipation of, that I'm not always going to agree. We're,
Right.
we're going to disagree. and that's okay. And even if I'm frustrated, that's okay. This is the person that God has put in my life for a purpose. So I'm going to love and respect him no matter what. And
Right.
so wanting to establish and have a great marriage, because I did not see a great marriage. You know what I mean? And so I want to be able to have that for
That's good.
my future children. So to make sure that knowing that, and I think that helps with security as far as like, this is the one that God was like, yes to, and
Hmm.
there's a yes for a reason. So knowing that and having that is something that I always can go back to and go, okay, God. And, obviously with God's help that, your marriage can survive through anything. Um, as you both are willing and wanting. And so that's kind of the view that I see it in.
Okay, that's good though. It seems like you've thought about this. You've really thought
Mhm.
about this and you thought about the process and what this means to you. And that's amazing, right? Because, like
Yeah.
we were talking about just a few minutes ago, is that we both know people that have gotten into marriages that have been hurtful to them because they just
Mhm.
had to get married. They just had to get married now,
Yeah.
and that can be very painful. Whether you're a believer or not is irrelevant,
Yeah.
right? At that
Oh, yeah.
point, hurt is hurt, and a bad
Yeah.
marriage is a bad marriage, right?
Yeah.
So before I let you go, I do want you to talk to me a little bit about the pursuing purity under pressure, um,
Yeah.
because I don't think that's something that I've heard too many people talking about. So
Yeah.
I want you to like break that down just a bit for us about what is your book about? What is pursuing purity under pressure?
Okay. So I wrote it because I recognize the very over sexualized culture we're in. And
Very.
as someone whom, so I'm 38, I'll be 39 next month, and I'm a virgin and I'm waiting until marriage to have sex.
Good for
So,
you.
as someone who has been raised in a sexualized culture, learning how to avoid certain things and when temptations come and not giving into the pressures of society, of the culture that
Mhm.
we're in. And so that's basically what the book is about, is to help bring encouragement to people whom are virgins like me, and or people that are just now remaining abstinent or just deciding from here on out, I'm going to wait until marriage. So bringing that encouragement and how to, live this out in a very sexualized culture is what the book really is
Mhm.
about. So
Oh,
it's
that's
for
good.
singles, for adults, and for young people. I have a whole chapter in there. It's called Dating Over 35. So it's designated for my older singles like myself, how this is not just relegated, to young people, but just helping people to
So
see the
good.
blessing and the benefit of abstinence and of waiting until marriage, and really bringing, for people who are church people, the understanding why. Like, why is God asking this of me? Why is he asking of me to wait until marriage to have sex? Because I think a lot of
Right.
times where I feel like the church did not a good job was they told us not to do it, but didn't tell us why. And so when you have the why and the understanding, it helps you make better decisions. And so that's what I wanted, is to really bring the why behind and explaining how sex is three parts. It's physical, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. And so really diving in and just giving people an understanding of the why behind the wait and
Yeah.
the benefit of, even just from a natural standpoint, saving yourself for marriage. So as someone who is currently living that out, I could speak to that. So
Yeah.
so that's why I
Yeah,
wrote it.
and that's amazing. No, really, that's a beautiful gift that you are going to give your spouse. That's a
Yes.
beautiful gift that you're going to give your spouse. Because it's just not common anymore,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and it is a gift from God. Sex is a gift, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we in society have perverted it, right? We've
Yeah.
made it things that it shouldn't be. And but it is a gift. It's supposed to be a gift shared between, a husband and wife, and it's supposed to bring forth life and pleasure
Yeah.
and love. And unfortunately, that's not what it's thought about when we think
Mhm.
about it anymore. But that's awesome because it feels to me like you're trying to capture the true essence of what it is. And when you find that the one that God has created for you, that's going to just be such a beautiful moment, right? And it's going to be a beautiful legacy that you leave with your children and your
Mhm.
children's children. So good for you, man. Good for you. Kudos to
Hey.
you. Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm really, really, I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm proud of your message, and I'm proud of how you're teaching it to others and impacting their lives in a different way, right? Just showing them that there is a different way. It
Yes.
doesn't all have to be the way society says, the way the media says, the way social
Yeah.
media says, right? But that you
Yeah.
can be proud and honor your faith, honor your walk, honor your virginity, honor your relationships, right? Without feeling shunned or rejected or any of those things. And even if you are shunned or rejected or any of those things, if you really stand in the true essence of who you are and whose you are, that transforms everything, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does.
Yeah, so
It doesn't
amazing.
matter. It's not, it's never phased me when people made fun. It's never, you know, because it's like it's all good. Because like on
It's
any given day,
jealousy, girl. Most of us are jealous.
like if,
If
you
anybody's making fun, they're just like, oh, I wish I could have done that.
know. And I really just wanted to kind of shatter the stereotype because
Yeah.
people, it's like if you're a virgin or remaining abstinent, people think there's something wrong with you. You must be ugly.
Right. You
Date
walking
or
around in a
something
house coat with
afterwards.
fluffy
Like,
slippers.
yeah, people have this total misconception that I really
So
wanted to
true.
shatter.
So
And even
true.
just bring it out because I feel like there's actually a lot of people who are like abstinent or even virgins, but they're so quiet about it because they're afraid to be
Yeah.
made fun of or something. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, y'all, this girl
Mm-mm.
looks good and she's
Right.
waiting. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And so,
I
yeah,
love
and
it.
that's
I
kind
love
of
it.
what I wanted to do is shatter that stereotype.
And you're doing that, Monique. I'm very proud of you. Awesome
Thank you.
sauce. Awesome.
Thank
Okay. So before I let you go, I always love to ask where my people can find you because my audience is amazing and they just love to like make comments and they're always like, oh my gosh, this was a great interview and all this great stuff. So I want to know, and because I am Christian, so I do have a Christian following. You know, I have all kinds, but I do have a Christian following. And so where can we, find your book? Where can we find you? You know, do you
you.
have
Okay.
social media that we can look at? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So my website, which is just my name, moniquedeleon.com. And that is where you can find the book and music. You're doing
Oh,
worship and stuff.
great.
And then you can connect to the other website where the online courses are. Because what I did was I created online courses
Oh,
that
I
I
didn't
just
ask you about that. Yeah,
extract. So
that's
I
right.
basically just extract certain things from the book and expound on it. So if people want deeper teaching on a particular topic, like I have a course called Pursuing God Under Pressure, Temptation Under Pressure,
Oh, that's
a one
good.
called Sex, Spirit, Soul, and Body. And in that course, I talk about it like masturbation, even bringing up oral sex, things like that. In this course, I talk about, and then a course on the Holy Spirit. And so just
So
extracting
good.
certain things and going deeper if people want that. So that's available. So you can just, for moniquedeleon.com. And then I did like a mini podcast, which is like mini teachings, because mine it's 10 minutes or less. And you can find all of that on that website. And you can link through to the
That's
social media
awesome.
from the website. Yeah. So moniquedeleon.com.
That's beautiful. Is your book also on Amazon and stuff like
It is.
that? Or
You
is
can
it
find it.
just okay? All
Mhm.
right. So you have your courses on there, which is fantastic. And you have your book and you have worship music, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the mini podcast, is that something that like are you on the platforms as well?
Yes,
Or
yes. So
okay.
I do it through Anchor. So you can find Anchor, but
Okay.
I'm also, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket
Great.
Casts, Radio
Is it
Casts, all
just
the.
under your name or is there a name to the
Yes. So the
podcast?
name of the podcast is called Bite Size Insight.
Okay. Great.
So yeah.
I'm going to go
So
look
you can
for it
still
and
find
subscribe.
Monique De Leon, but then also, yeah, Bite Size Insight. And that's the whole thing is just breaking down certain topics or things in the Bible in smaller doses for people, basically. So
That's
bite size.
fantastic. I'm going to make sure to
Mhm.
listen to that. I really am going to go subscribe as soon as we're done here.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monique, for being here with us today. And thank you for sharing your heart, your love, your story. I love you. You're infectious. I love you. I think you're
Thanks for
amazing.
having me.
So
Much
yeah.
appreciated.
I'm so glad you're here. And guys, you heard it. You heard it here. You got to go on her website, which is moniquedeleon.com. And make sure you
Mhm.
go on there and check out her course creations that she has, her
Mhm.
music, the book. I mean, her podcast, she has a lot going on. So you will have enough content to
Yeah.
keep yourself busy for a little while. So make sure that you guys follow and support this because this is an amazing message that most people are not hearing anymore, but I think we need to. So guys,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here with us. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Okay. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Go ahead and leave a review. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you soon. Until next time.